How's it going? This video is about what is time. I've touched on this before and I'm returning to contemplating it and working on it and seeing what unfolds related to the practice of roulette. Very quickly, when I was a lot younger, I was a big fan of Roald Dahl and I read a book called The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, and it's available as an audiobook on YouTube. It's only a short book, you'd read it in no time. But I knew immediately when I first read it that what I was reading was factual rather than fiction. And I read it a number of times, and then I rediscovered it about 10 years ago at a retreat in Italy by a channel being called Ramtha. In that retreat, there was a guy who could, I'll rewind a bit, there was a woman who could see through cards, and she would go through a deck. I think there's 52 cards in a deck, and she might see, say, 45 of them. She would get someone in the group, in the crowd, to shuffle the cards, and she could, the back facing up, she could see what card it was. That was all interesting. We all went away, and about a year later, I was back at a retreat, and there was maybe 8 or 9 people in the audience now who had went home and practiced the exercises and now could see through most of the deck of cards. Someone else got into roulette and to see what number the ball was due to land on. And of course, time passed, and the people in the audience, we all took away these exercises, and we came back, and more people could see. People were adapting it. They could see what slot machines, what was going to hit or what number was going to hit. So all time is happening simultaneously, and we choose what variant we're going to travel to, where we want to be. And to go back to Henry Sugar is a book. It's a brilliant little book about a very wealthy guy who wants to be even more wealthy, and he practices yogic techniques such as candle focus, various techniques for about a year and a half, like very intensely, and he develops the skill to see through cards, and I think it, if I remember correctly, to see the numbers on a roulette wheel, and he becomes more and more wealthy, and then it changes him, and he uses the money to set up orphanages. And the myth goes, that's not in the book, the story goes that he is actually still alive, like some of these ascended beings or characters who no names spring to mind, who just seem to move around the planet, and they move someplace else because people might get suspicious that he's not getting any older. Or there's a book called The Red Line which discusses some of that as well, by Maria Zeppes, I think. I'll talk about that another time. It's one of the best books I've ever read, The Red Line. About 10 years ago, when I discovered these techniques and this theory, I went home and I started practicing, and I had some success with it. I put in a lot of time. I was working full time at the time, and I would probably get up maybe an hour and a half earlier every day. I would do 2 or 3 meditations. I would do focus exercises, and then in the evening I would come home and basically spend my evening, doing 2-3 hours of exercises. And this developed and developed. Now, to develop the skills to change timelines, if you like, or land on that number, or see what horse is going to win a race, or whatever it is, that's one skill. The other skill is to conquer the emotions, the human emotions, which are extremely strong in relation to winning money or losing money. So that's a whole different ball game. And fast forward, so I dropped this. The recession hit and stress hit, and it's very difficult, if not impossible. It's not impossible. Nothing is impossible, but it's very difficult to do these exercises with any kind of emotion fluctuating around. We need to be totally centered, and I mean, that's why the last year and a half, many times that you're probably sick of listening to me, I've talked about being centered and observing and being still and allowing that hurricane of emotion to wash over us, as opposed to being thrown around by it. And maybe now that I'm associating it with money, people might actually pay attention. Because up until that, people don't tend to pay much attention. So being still and being able to observe the greed for more money or the fear of losing money, and being able to detach from that, that allows us to change timelines or to see what number is going to hit. About 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I got properly into this again, and I met a guy who basically, he was a banker in London, and he retired from banking, and he basically now plays roulette full time. No, not full time. He makes a living from it. So he might make £2,000-3,000 in 10 minutes in an online roulette casino and then disappear. So he has maybe 20 accounts in different countries open. So he won't keep going back to the same one because it will attract attention. And he lives like that. He has a son in a different country. He's a different partner from that son. So he kind of travels. He would see his family and he would live life. That's what he does. As we know, money doesn't buy us happiness. This guy is troubled and he has his challenges. Plenty. I wouldn't want his life and I wouldn't want his challenges. As I developed this, I put in probably 3 or 4 hours a day. I was kind of between unemployment at that stage, or working random days here and there. So I had the time. I put in a lot of time, morning and evening. And I had developed a whole routine of out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning, into a cold shower for 3 to 5 minutes, bulletproof green tea or matcha tea, orange juice. All these things were to boost the brain, to awaken the brain, to awaken the nervous system and shock the body, and then go into focus, various types of focus, and then finally begin training with roulette. So not live money, demo accounts of just spinning a wheel. It's called a random number generator. You can find them even online, or just cut up say 36, 37 numbers on a piece of paper and put them in a bag or in a hat. Put your hand in, pick one out. That's a random number generator. So you don't know what's going to come out. And then after that, I would gradually move towards money. But I spent a lot of time for about over a year doing this, and I got to a point where I remember one summer I was in the mountains of Madrid with my ex-girlfriend, and I would walk a lot in the mountains and I would just randomly see numbers in the sky. Not looking for numbers, I was walking in the sun, I was enjoying myself, see a number, and I would take out my phone and open this roulette app, this toy app, and that number would hit again and again and again. And then I would sit outside her house and I'd smoke my pipe and drink coffee and just enjoy the sun, and I'd see numbers on the ground. And then we went back to Madrid. We were making our way home, and I was in the city in Madrid, and I thought, oh, this is way too stressful and busy. And the same thing, I'd be walking through crowds and I'd see the numbers in the building or the numbers wherever, and the numbers would hit again and again and again. So they're being presented. And I got up to probably about 80% accuracy. I could get 8 out of 10 in a row, or 8 out of 10 correct. And then I decided to see, what if I picked a number? Could I make that number hit? So I would pick numbers and that number would hit. So now this is all interesting on a kind of roulette potential money making. I do want to stress that seeing the numbers is like running a marathon and then conquering the human emotions. I haven't done that yet. That's another marathon, if not more. I don't know. I haven't achieved that yet. So overcoming that rush of fear is another challenge, or rush of adrenaline or excitement of what it might mean, of freedom or economic freedom or liberation, or, oh my God, debt, I can't afford to spend this money or lose this money. So all of that can come up to be faced again and again. But also what began to unfold for me, and now would really grip me and interest me, is what is time? What is happening that I can see what number a ball is going to land on? People, by the way, in a side note, have said to me, why don't you do the lottery? Well, getting 6 or 7 or 8 numbers in a row correct in a row, in the same thing, is quite a challenge. That's the first thing. And the second thing would be the emotion of that. The lottery win is a much higher amount of money to potentially win. So you're bringing in huge emotion, which can be very distracting. And then if you can win 50 quid, 100 quid, 500 quid, whatever you need a day, who needs a lottery? Who needs £1 million, £10 million win? And also what I would be aiming for would be freedom, economic liberation, and drawing in abundance. So going after the lottery or the big win is not coming from a place of abundance. It's coming from a place of lack. It's like, oh, I really need to get rich and to be free of my bills. Whereas making, say, a couple of £100 and not having anything else, but knowing and being in a place of abundance that it will flow tomorrow or whenever it's needed or whatever it needed, that's a different place to be. That's freedom. That's where I would be aiming to be, as opposed to trying to grab as much as I can now so that I can get through the winter or whatever. But yeah, what's become more fascinating is not the understanding, but the question of what is time, what's happening. How can there are on the European and American roulette wheels, so it could be 0 to 36, so there's 37 numbers. My understanding now is that the ball lands on all 37 numbers, and I just choose from some place, usually unconsciously, where to go. So when we go into a casino or an online casino or whatever, we spin a wheel, we're asleep. All our baggage and energy, our higher self, our subconscious is deciding what number it's going to play on. So if you don't want to lose 20 quid, you have baggage about loss. It's going to find the number that's not the number that you bet on. But when we're conscious and we engage where we are going, we can steer time, we can steer our reality to whatever number we choose it to go to. Now that's fascinating with roulette. With roulette, what I love about the roulette practice is it's in real time. You know, it's like, say, the documentary or the film The Secret, you know, if you're manifesting your reality, and that can take months, you know, and you do your daily focus and you try and create your car or your health or whatever it is. And maybe it happens, or maybe you get lazy, or maybe it doesn't, or it unfolds differently. With roulette, it's instant. In seconds, you know, have you been accurate or not. You're getting live feedback. So if you have a plastic physical wheel in front of you that can't be manipulated by any online casino algorithm or any of that, you can see if you're correct 5 times in a row, you know that is not coincidence. If you're correct again and again and again and again and again, you know you're manipulating time. And that also gives power and strength to the possibility, which is a greater challenge, to steer our reality to that, you know, perfect health, disease-free, cancer-free time traveler, or whatever it is you want to manifest. But I find anyway with myself, I think it's the same for a lot of people, that it's baby steps. I like baby steps, and I like feedback, because it strengthens that muscle. So if I get if I try to manifest the cup of coffee and the cup of coffee arrives, then I feel a bit stronger and I think, okay, I might try and manifest, I don't know, new pair of shoes. So I manifest a new pair of shoes. Oh, I'm a bit stronger. So I'm not going to go from 0 to the £5 million yacht with a helipad, you know, in the Caribbean. It's quite a leap in my mind, because it seems so far away and I have no idea how that'll happen. With roulette, it grows that strength and feeds that strength and that muscle, more reliability, more faith, I suppose I have, that this is not a coincidence, that this is happening day in, day out. I get stronger, I believe more. Any of these things, in my experience, have taken a lot of time and a lot of dedication to really, you know, we're really tested. How much do you want this? But I do believe in this new world and in the future that, you know, future children will be able to just do these things. They just happen faster and faster. As the collective consciousness rises, it's easier to do. Before I finish up, just the ethical question of like, ooh, is that stealing money? I don't see it as stealing money. Perhaps I choose not to see it as stealing money. The challenge is, can you guess the lottery numbers? Or can you guess the number that the ball will land on? Yes, I can. Give me my money. It's as simple as that. So some people can. Some people do it unconsciously, obviously, randomly. People win the lottery unconsciously. They're unaware of what they're doing. And then some people are conscious and they know what they're doing. So why not live consciously? That's it. I hope that was of interest to some people. I'll be back soon, perhaps. Enjoy. Thanks for listening.